Paul Gregersen, lying for the Mormon Lord. As many of you know, Paul Gregersen and I have been going back and forth in the comment sections of our channels. Recently, he posted a video addressing my rebuttal to his work. And let me be blunt, his response is riddled with dishonesty. I had no intention of wasting more time on his nonsense, but his blatant misrepresentation forced my hand. So let's get right into it and break down the first 8 minutes of his video, the only part even remotely worth watching. After that, it's pure garbage. Right out of the gate, just 18 seconds into Paul Gregersen's rebuttal video, he exposes himself as blatantly dishonest. He opens with this gem. I'm here to speak for myself, because other people have been speaking for me. They put out a video in my name. It's got quite a few views. Let's set things straight. One, I did not put out a video in Gregersen's name. I released a video debunking his nonsense after one of his devoted followers challenged me to do so. After months of harassment from these zealots, I had enough and delivered a thorough takedown. 2. Gregersen claims I accused him of using mythicism and numerology. Wrong. Let's clear this up right now. Mythicism? Never happened. I never once suggested Gregersen subscribes to mythicism. Numerology? Absolutely. I called him out for it, not because he mentions numbers, but because the numbers he's obsessed with are completely irrelevant to any legitimate argument. Counting how many times certain words appear in a text proves nothing. In my original video, I quoted him directly. Gregersen also points out the frequency of specific words within the text. The word God appears 50 times, the word Lord appears 35 times, the word Egypt appears 29 times. He claims these frequencies are deliberate and carry deeper divine messages. However, this argument assumes that such patterns are meaningful without providing any concrete evidence. One could find similar numerical patterns in virtually any text, sacred or secular, if they search hard enough. This is not mythicism, it's nonsense. 3. At no point in my video did I ever claim that Gregersen personally translated the Book of Abraham. Not once. Download the transcript and verify it for yourself. It's not there. Honestly, I don't think Gregersen is remotely qualified to translate anything. What I said, repeatedly, is that Joseph Smith mistranslated the Book of Abraham, turning what should have been a historical translation into a fraudulent mess. Gregersen, however, tries to muddy the waters, arguing for the church's evolving narrative, from a literal translation to some mystical spiritual one. So Paul, enlighten us. Where exactly in my video did I claim you translated the Book of Abraham? 4. Just 30 seconds into his video, Gregersen flat out lies. What I'm doing is explaining the facts, emis, the illustrations that are in the Book of Abraham, because we don't have the original manuscript to even fool with. This is a complete falsehood. There are surviving fragments of the original papyri, and scholars have already reconstructed the scrolls. This is not some fringe theory. It's documented fact. If Gregersen wanted to defend himself, he could have brought up the missing scroll theory, which some apologists use to explain away the discrepancies. But clearly, he's either too uninformed or too careless to even attempt that argument. 5. Oh heavens, Gregersen stoops to an even more pathetic low here, grasping at straws by attacking AI-generated images I used through ChatGPT to convey concepts. These images were never meant to be taken literally, but apparently, Gregersen is so ignorant and full of himself that he can't grasp the concept of placeholder visuals. There are no actual images available to back up Paul's ridiculous claims, because his claims are pure fiction. So I used fictional images, just like the nonsense he's trying to push. 6. 2 minutes in, Gregersen attempts to recycle his numerology nonsense, this time tying it to the Book of Abraham and the funerary papyri scrolls. He's desperately trying to find meaning where none exists. I've already shut this down by pointing out that Joseph Smith was learning Hebrew at the same time he was translating the Book of Abraham. It's far more likely Smith borrowed Hebrew concepts and wove them into his fraudulent translations. End of story. Easily debunked. Gregersen then doubles down on the absurdity, claiming that the Egyptian gods depicted on the scrolls are false deities, and that Smith was somehow correcting their identities. Honestly, I'll just shake my head and let you, the viewer, decide what you think. I'd prefer not to insult Gregersen too harshly, even though he makes it far too easy. 7. Around 2:45, Gregersen claims that Egyptologists support him on the concept of the eternal round. Yet conveniently, he doesn't provide a single source to back this up. Here's the kicker. Eternal round is not an Egyptian term. While Egyptian religion did emphasize eternal cycles, rebirth, cosmic order, and divine renewal, the specific phrase eternal round is pure LDS apologetic jargon. It does not exist in Egyptian texts. 8. Lanny Bell Gregersen brings up Lanny Bell, a respected non-Mormon Egyptologist, as if Bell somehow supports Joseph Smith's overall translation of the Book of Abraham. Not true. Here's what Bell actually said. Let me state clearly at the outset my conviction that the questionable traces above the head of the Osiris figure are actually the remains of his right hand. In other words, Joseph Smith was correct in his understanding of the drawing at this point, but Gregersen conveniently omits the rest. Bell's agreement with Smith is highly limited, applying only to one minor detail in the facsimile's reconstruction, nothing more. Bell never supported Joseph Smith's broader translation or interpretation of the facsimile. What Gregersen doesn't want you to know is that Lanny Bell was highly critical of Smith's work. Bell's reconstruction of facsimile 1 completely contradicts Smith's version, and Bell openly called Smith's translation a fraud. This is the kind of selective manipulation Gregersen depends on, ignoring key facts and presenting half-truths to push his narrative. 9. My final point. Before we stop wasting time on Gregersen's nonsense once and for all, Gregersen boldly claims that scholars support him and that they outright dismiss Robert Rittner, a respected Egyptologist with decades of experience. But here's the problem. None of these so-called scholars are ever named or identified on Gregersen's channel. They're nothing more than anonymous social media users with zero verified credentials, no academic background, no published work, no legitimacy that we can verify. Let's be clear, unnamed internet randos do not qualify as experts. Meanwhile, Rittner and countless other actual scholars with degrees and decades of fieldwork have exposed the fraudulent nature of Joseph Smith's translation. Gregersen's refusal to name his sources tells us everything we need to know. They don't exist, or they're too unqualified to be taken seriously. I'm not a university-educated expert in the field. I'm an amateur scholar and online communicator. But when I claim to have sources, guess what? I back it up. I name them. I show you exactly who they are. No hiding, no vague references, no anonymous internet ghosts. The scholars I cite can stand behind their work and respond directly. Transparency matters. If your so-called experts can't even state their name and credentials, it's because they don't exist or can't defend their nonsense. In short, Gregersen's entire argument collapses under the weight of its own lies and fabrications. One last point I'd like to address. Gregersen claims that critics of the church like me are only in this for the money. Really? Many ex-Mormon creators, myself included, aren't even monetized. Meanwhile, groups like FAIR, Book of Mormon Central, LDS Living, Saints Unscripted, and Interpreter have substantial funding from donors, church-affiliated sources, and oh yeah, are fully monetized on YouTube. Sure, a few ex-Mormon channels are large enough to monetize, but profit has never been our driving force. If money were the goal, trust me, there are far easier and far more lucrative niches than critiquing Mormonism. Thank you so kindly for watching. This is the Ex-Mormon Informant signing off for today.